After that, things got worse in two ways. In the first place, the country was much harder. The road led through endless narrow valleys down which a cruel north wind was always blowing in their faces. The ground was all stony and made your feet sore by day and every bit of you sore by night. And there was nothing that could be used for firewood. And there were no nice little hollows to camp in. In the second place, whatever the lady had intended by telling the children about Harfang, the actual effect was a bad one. They could think about nothing but beds and baths and hot meals and how lovely it would be to get indoors. That made them more sorry for themselves and more grumpy and snappy with each other and with Puddleglum. They never talked about Aslan or even about the lost prince now. And Jill gave up her habit of repeating the signs over to herself every night and morning. At last they came one afternoon to a place where the gorge widened out and dark fir trees rose on either side. They looked ahead and saw that before them lay a desolate rocky plain. Beyond it, further mountains capped with snow. But between them and those further mountains rose a low hill with an irregular, flattish top.
Look! Look! Lights! I can see lights!
Harfang! We finally found Harfang!
Harfang.
It was far too late to think of reaching Harfang that day. But they had a hot meal of wild goose which Puddleglum had caught and a roaring fire and started the night warmer than they'd been for over a week. They travelled the next day under a sunless sky and a wind that felt as if it would take your skin off. The ancient road was more ruinous than any they had yet seen. They had to pick their way over great broken stones and rubble, hard going for sore feet. At about 10 o'clock, it began to snow, lightly at first, but by the end of the hour it was a good steady snowstorm that drove in their faces so that they could hardly see. As they drew near the low hill which separated them from the place where the lighted windows had appeared, they had no general view of it at all. Then they caught a glimpse of what might be rocks on each side, squarish rocks, if you looked at them carefully, but no one did. All were more concerned with the ledge right in front of them, which barred their way. It was about 4 feet high.
Oh dear. Oh.
I'll climb up and then help you two.
Careful.
Because of the snow, it was a nasty, wet business. They had a stiff climb up very rough ground for about 100 yards and came to a second ledge. There were 4 of these ledges altogether at quite irregular intervals. As they struggled onto the 4th ledge, there was no mistaking the fact that they were now at the top of the flat hill, a great level tableland which was crisscrossed with curious banks and dikes varying from 2 to 5 feet in height and a couple of yards thick. All of these, of course, had to be climbed. The full fury of the wind blew snow in their faces. On their right, Jill had glimpses of other odd things on that horrible tableland. Things that looked vaguely like factory chimneys. On their left was a huge cliff, straighter than any cliff ought to be, but she wasn't at all interested and didn't give them a thought. The only things she thought about were her cold hands and nose and chin and ears and hot baths and beds at Harfang. Suddenly, she skidded, slid about 5 feet, and found herself sliding down into a dark, narrow chasm which seemed to have appeared in front of her. Half a second later, she reached the bottom. She appeared to be in a kind of trench or groove, only about 3 feet wide. And though she was shaken by the fall, The first thing she noticed was the relief of being out of the wind, for the walls of the trench protected her.
Are you hurt, Jill?
Both legs broken, I shouldn't wonder.
I'm all right.
What is it you've fallen into?
It's a kind of trench or a sunken lane or something. It runs quite straight.
Yes, by Jove! It looks like it runs due north. I wonder if it's some sort of road. If it was, we'd be out of this infernal wind down there. Is there a lot of snow at the bottom?
Hardly any.
What happens further on?
It turns sharply to the right.
What's around the corner?
Oh, I don't know. It's awfully dark.
Be careful, Jill. It's just the sort of place that might lead to a dragon's cave. And in a giant country, there might be giant earthworms or giant beetles.
From what I can see, I don't think it goes anywhere much.
What do you mean it doesn't lead anywhere much?
It goes to another corner and then to the right.
Oh, that's no good. That would be taking us back south. Take our hands. We'll pull you out again.
Come on, girl.
Here we go.
Oh, it's misery to come back to the cold.
Are you still sure of those signs, Jill? What's the one we ought to be after now?
Oh, bother the signs. Something about someone mentioning Aslan's name, I think. But I'm jolly well not going to give a recitation here.
Wait. That was next, was it? Aslam's name? Now, I wonder, are you right? Got 'em mixed up, I shouldn't wonder. Seems to me this hill, this flat place we're on, is worth stopping to have a look at. Have you noticed the way...
Please, is this a time for stopping to admire the view? For goodness sake, let's get on.
Oh, look! I see the lights again. More lights than before. They're windows to rooms.
Harfang.
That's all very well, but what I was saying
Oh,
was...
do stop. We haven't a moment to lose.
Yes.
Don't you remember what the lady said about their locking up early? We must get there in time. We simply must. We'll die if we're shut out in a night like this.
Well, it isn't exactly a night, not yet.
Oh, come on.
The children stumbled forward on the slippery tableland as quickly as their legs could carry them. The Marsh Wiggle followed them, still talking, but they couldn't hear him, nor wanted to. They were thinking of baths and beds and hot drinks. Harfang stood on a high crag, and in spite of its many towers, was more a huge house than a castle. Obviously the gentle giants feared no attack. There were windows in the outside wall quite close to the ground, a thing no one would have in a serious fortress. There were even odd little doors here and there, so that it would be quite easy to get in and out of the castle without going through the courtyard. It made the whole place look more friendly and less forbidding. Presently, they found themselves at the front door.
Steady pace now. Don't look frightened, whatever you do. We've done the silliest thing in the world by coming at all, but now that we are here, we'd best put a bold face on it. Hello! Porter! Guests who seek lodging!
I say, he may be a wet blanket, but he has plenty of pluck. And cheek.
Listen.
The porter appeared. Jill bit her lips for fear she should scream. He was not a perfectly enormous giant. That is to say, he was taller than an apple tree, but nothing so tall as a telegraph pole. He had bristly red hair, a leather jerkin with metal plates fastened all over it so as to make a kind of mail shirt, bare and hairy knees, and things like leggings covering the rest of his legs. He stooped down and goggled at Puddleglum.
And what sort of creature do you call yourself?
I am...
Please, The Lady of the Green Kirtle salutes the King of the Gentle Giants and has sent us 2 southern children and this marsh wiggle called Puddleglum to your autumn feast. If it's quite convenient, of course.
Oh, come in, little people, come in. You'd best come into the lodge while I'm sending word to His Majesty.
Oh, thank you.
Strange, I wouldn't have expected you to have blue faces. I don't care for it myself, but I dare say you look quite nice to one another. Beetles fancy other beetles, they do say.
Oh, our faces are only blue with the cold. We're not this colour, really.
Oh, well then come in and get warm. Come in, little shrimps.
A warm fire.
Now, youngster, run across to the house and tell them that the Lady of the Green Kirtle has sent us 2 southern children for our autumn feast. Yes, sir. Now, listen now. How can I give you drinks? Oh, you'll drown in our cups. Let me see. Thimbles! Thimbles! I'll get something warm for the children. And for you, Froggy, something to help you cheer up. Now, if I... There you go.
Is it all right, Puddleglum?
It's rather late to be thinking of precautions now that we're inside and the door is shut behind us. Smells all right, but that's nothing to go by. Better make sure. Tastes all right too, but it might do that at the first sip. How does it go on? But is it the same all the way down? There'll be something nasty at the bottom, I shouldn't wonder. This'll be the test, you see. If I curl up, or burst, or turn into a lizard, then you'll know not to take anything they offer you.
Oh, why? Froggy, you sure know how to put it down.
I'm not a frog. I'm a musher, a wiggle. Perhaps I better sit down.
Sir, they're to go to the throne room at once. I'll show them the way, young'un. Oh, and you better carry Froggy. He's had a drop more than is good for him. Right.
There's nothing wrong with me. Not a frog. Nothing wrong with me. Whoop! Steady. Oh, a speck-a-pickle. A speck-a-pickle wiggle. A speck-a-pickle